Enter Michigan and the Fab Five, UNLV version 2.0. They were 5 black freshmen, and they had become the coolest thing in sports.
In the era when I was falling in love with hip-hop, and so many people were, I related to Michigan. I related to the baggy shorts on Chris Webber. There was an air of rebellion that, like, I was into.
You know, when you go in your backyard and play, I don't want to be like Christian Laettner and those guys. I want to be like Chris Webber and Jalen Rose. I want to be like the cool kids. They felt like one of us. Duke felt very exclusive. Duke felt like the establishment. And who was the face of Duke? It was Christian Laettner.
The media and hype really comes about with something new, something fresh. And I'll say this, I think the Fab Five deserve some of that hype. They were very good, all freshmen, how they were all friends, the baggy shorts.
Michigan was a cultural phenomenon. They would walk in a mall and they'd see other kids dressed like them. They walked with the swagger. They knew they were cool.
But for it to get hyped up so much, it's just because it's new and fresh.
Christian Laettner was considered one of the best. So I hated Christian Laettner. We got a bad rap as a Fab Five for talking trash. That played into the black and white issue.
You know, the big tension between, say, Jalen Rose and Grant Hill when it came down to the difference between Michigan, the black boys with the Fab Five, versus the kind of players that Mike Krzyzewski would bring in to Duke.
I recall the term Uncle Tom probably being used. I think they made a conscious effort to not only recruit a player that could come and really be productive, but also recruit a guy that was from a pretty well-to-do family.
I quickly sort of realized, okay, it was going to be intense, and there was going to be a lot of trash talk. And I think it bothered some people maybe more than others. It didn't really bother me so much. You know, looking back at it, it was juvenile. You know, they talk all this Uncle Tom, you know, and I'm like, man, I'm more hood and street than that team. And to say that about us, we knew it was just ridiculous, you know, just because they all wanted to go to Duke. You know, Chris Webber visited Duke and stayed with me.
The inner city kids against, you know, the suburban kids. Not all of us at Duke were from the entitled families. I wasn't. Bobby Hurley wasn't. Thomas Hill wasn't. Brian Davis wasn't. The only person that was Grant Hill. Besides that, we were blue-collar kids, too.
An awful lot of conversation taking place right now, of which Christian Laettner's leading a lot of it.
You ain't. You're a bitch. And it went back and forth. It wasn't one-sided. He's one of the greatest trash talkers in the history of the game.
There's Jalen Rose going after Laettner a little bit. Laettner's mouthing back.
He had this all-American, great white hype type of image publicly, but internally he wanted to be a bad boy. It's okay for us not to like each other, and yes, we didn't like him, and we didn't like Duke.
They knew they were good, and they weren't afraid to say so. And they gave Duke a game.
Webber. Chris Webber and Michigan move in front. Laettner silences him with a 3. Boy, super play by the All-American.
We took it into overtime, but we eventually lost the game, and I gained a lot of respect for him and for that team after we played against them.
He was smart enough to realize that you're always going to have people talking about how much they hate Duke. But so what? Lae's authentic. You know, there's nobody like Lae. And what I loved about him is he loved black people.